Welcome to the session today, everyone. Thank you so much for joining over the weekend. And just for people who are new to our this month call, wanted to give a bit of overview what we do every month. So this is a monthly initiative which I have started, which happens every month's first Saturday, and the timing is also fixed, and we have kept this timing just to make sure we kind of accommodate all the different time zones other places, right? So that's where we have tried kept keeping the timing this way, but ideally the focus of this particular session is we keep three segment in this monthly call. One's first section is about the expert topic, where we bring expert from the community who would share a specific topic and knowledge in the experience. So today we have Andre for talking about security. And the second segment of this is bit a small segment where I try to share my experience, which is bit non-technical, not product capability or something, but as a norm, as a overall, as a consultant, how you need to focus on certain other things, because sometimes we forget about the external other factors or other aspect of our career, just focus on the core capabilities. And the last segment is a pretty much an open forum where you can ask the question about the topic which we share on that day. And then you can also ask certain other questions if you have any challenge you are facing in your project and other aspect, right? So if it is possible, we try to answer those things. So that's kind of a structure of this monthly session. And the reason for doing this is a lot of people message on LinkedIn about all these different things. So I thought let's build a common platform where everyone can join and have a collaborative learning and ask their questions there. Now, before we start with today's session, bit of housekeeping. Like, this session will be recorded. We will upload this on the YouTube channel. So if you are not comfortable getting recorded, maybe take your decision and make this more interactive. We want this to be like you should ask questions as much as possible, because it's a collaborative environment we want to build. Add questions to the chat if you are not asking on the mic, so I will try to read that and help you answering that. And if possible, I always say as a consultant, we are the customer facing, so let's not get shy away from being on camera. So if you are okay, then you can be on the camera, right? And with that, just a disclaimer, anything which we share here are my personal opinion, since I am directly associated with the Microsoft. So I do not want you to perceive that I am representing officially Microsoft in this session. So that's one of the aspect I just wanted to give a quick disclaimer. Agenda for today is the introduction recap, which we are doing now. And then we will have an expert topic from Andre about the security. So I was thinking what best we can do around the security area. So, and then we were thinking we should be do the enforcement license and all, but then we thought, I think let's do the basics first, right? Because a lot of audience here who are new to this thing or transitioning, a lot of time we in our supply chain and finance, all those things, we forget about the security and the basic things which we have here, right? Just a recap, last month we have covered a fantastic session with Ragnar where we talked about how AI and the Copilot is changing the way the ERPs are implemented so that you can prepare yourself for the future, that how you should think about the ERP implementations, right? And there are certain resources. This PowerPoint I will be sharing with you. I will also consolidate things from Andre, but I have put certain resources here which I try to share with everyone. And I have put certain things from the security perspective which will help you to grasp on the functionality which you have. And these are all Microsoft Tech Talks and other things which you have it here. And with that, thank you so much, Andre, to agreeing and taking this session and taking out the time today. for this session, and I'm really glad to have you here and and know from you that how all the people here and including me can start with the security basics in FNO, right? Finance and operation, and that is one of the very key thing. I can tell you everyone that how critical it is for you to know about the security basics. Though you are a functional consultant, you might think your role is just a functional finance or supply chain consultant, but security is one of the key thing which you should know at least, right, from the system admin perspective. And Andre is one of the most recognized voice in the community. I think there would be, I think, rarely any person who would not know Andre, because Andre has been there for more than a decade now in the community, continuously contributing and being the MVP for more than 10 times now. So his recognition, his commitment towards the community is invaluable, right? Like I have started contributing to the community, looking at Andre and Ludwig in the past, right? Answering people's questions and on that forum. So really glad to have you, Andre, here, and the stage is all yours. Now, if you want, you can share your screen and then take over from here.
Yes, I will try to share my screen now.
Yeah.
Hopefully now everyone can see my screen. Just a quick introduction, as already Sarah just introduced me. I'm living and working from the Netherlands. My work area is not purely related to the Netherlands, but that's where we try to get the most of our clients today. But when required, I will also just help my colleagues in foreign countries, for example, Norway, Denmark, US, Australia, wherever there might be some questions. And in the Netherlands, I do that as a managing partner CTO, where just next to trying to build up the practice in the Netherlands, I'm also doing some work as solution architect or go to clients for second opinions, etc. My career started in 1996, where I just worked with Navision Financials, which is now known as Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. So not sure if others here in this room are also just having experience with that one. I was just working as pre-sales. I did do demos, but also sometimes some development. In 2001, I switched my career and went to a Damgaard Axapta partner, which is now known as Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. And I also focus now on the Power Platform, because every implementation today, there's always a link with some other tools extending and empowering finance and operations. There are some contact details. If you're not linked with me on LinkedIn yet, feel free to send me an invite. And I also, for that purpose, added a QR code at the right side. I'll just skip that again quickly, as I will just do an introduction, then go to user management, security roles, assign users, a bit of what's the difference between customization, configuration, talk about some data security and some miscellaneous other things. And if you look at Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, there are several focus areas for the security part. Most obviously, you need the users as security roles, assign them, but there are also options to ensure a segregation of duty, so that there will be no person, for example, being able to create a vendor, post vendor invoices, and also manage the vendor payments, just to prevent any fraud. For approvals part, not really in the security area, but signing limits in the workflows are also very important to just check and ensure that there will be not a single person that probably can buy some art for a $5 million, where he's just usually purchasing some consumables. Also, you need to, next to just assign, just keep monitoring what is happening with the security role assignments, create some reports out of it, just to ensure you're compliant and can prove your auditors, but also the internal business, that there's no unauthorized access in the application. And just license compliance, that's something I put already long time back on this slide. This is also a slide we use internally for a security assessment offering. But now it's really actual, as Microsoft will start with a license enforcement for user assignments. And it's also announced that Microsoft will go for a device license enforcement, but also once Microsoft will move from LCS to Power Platform Admin Center as the administration portal to manage the environments. Also from that moment on, you might expect a database size enforcement, which is currently also the case for the Dataverse databases. Next to just managing overall the security, data security is important, that in case you might have a particular form and maybe particular data on that form might be more secure or sensitive compared to other things, you might consider also just implementing some overrides that some people might not see particular fields or maybe even complete sets of data. And also when implementing security, in case you are dealing with certain countries where there are privacy regulations like the GDPR, then also ensure that only the minimum number of users will have access to private details, also to prevent any possible fines from some privacy authorities. And overall, also what's possible is certain levels of automation on user import, role assignments, etc. So that might also be just an option to think about when implementing security in the application. So this is all still high level. I have 50 more slides, but I will not go into depth in all of them, just highlighting them. And if you have questions later on, just feel free to ask them. And it's also just a bit of the reference what comes along with security. I also did do a security workshop in the past, and then I even have just about 200 different slides to explain all about security. So I try to keep it high level today. For the user management, of course, you need to make the application aware which users are allowed to enter the application. And the authentication part is done with Microsoft Entra ID for at least the cloud deployments. For on-premises, then still Active Directory Federation Services is used. The users you can set up in the application are most likely usually the internal users, but you can also invite guest users. And when creating users, you can also link them with a person in the application. That might be an employee or maybe a vendor contact. And that also just gives additional filtering of data where an employee might be able to see his own records and can change probably his private contact details. And an external vendor contact might be able to see only their invoices and purchase orders, and not all data in the application. But that's a part for the something happening. Yeah, it's working as intended. For creating the users, the first place to do that is Entra ID. There are several administration portals where you can start with by creating a user and have them available for authentication in various different applications. One of them is, for example, the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, but you can also go to an Azure portal where you can create and manage your users. There's also an option to manage security groups. and assign users to the group and use that group information in finance operations for user recognition and inherit particular permissions from security roles. And also on the Entra ID administration portal, that is the place where you will manage the license assignments. For example, if someone needs a Dynamics 365 finance license or supply chain, or maybe one base and also one attached, that's all based on the security implementation in the application. The place where you do that is the system administration, then go to user section. Then you come into a list page where you can see all your system users. You can add additional views, like I want to have an overview on the active system users or not active users. In this case, I create an additional view to only focus on the relevant information. And starting from this page, you can create manually with the plus new, or you can import users from Entra ID. In case you create a new user manually, then still first that user should be set up in Entra ID, as it will just check if it can find the user in Entra ID or not. But while creating the new user itself, you can provide the user ID and the username. If you fill the email field itself, then it will start checking in Entra ID if he can find a user with that email ID. If that's not the case, you will get an error stating that the user can't be found. In case for external users, the provider field needs to be altered, where you can also add the domain of the external user to just let the application know that it is an external user. But still, for external users, I have another slide, you also need to set them up as guest user in your own Entra ID tenant. If you import users in the application, then you will get a list of available users which are not imported yet in finance and operations. In this case, on the screenshot, it's a small list, but you can select one or more users to be able to import and then click on the button at the lower part to import the users. I think this was all a bit basic yet, but a bit on additional, again, there's the guest users. Ensure that the person is first set up as guest user in your Entra ID. Then you can also edit where you can change the provider field. And you can even add users with personal accounts. That's for the purpose of, for example, human resource self-serve, where an employee can see his own data, or maybe an applicant can just respond to particular tasks for the onboarding process. Personal accounts can be used with Hotmail, Live, Outlook, or Gmail, but also these users should be set up as an Entra ID guest user first, before you can them in the application as well. For linking users to a person, the idea is to have an additional functional support in or throughout the application. For example, if a user will create a new purchase order, then the requester might be filled already from the employee record information. But also it has some security purposes, like not everyone will see all records, but there will be a filtering based on who is this user and what is he then able to see or not. You can use another button with a strange name called maintain versions to delete or manage to link, just relink the user to another person in the application. In some cases, a person might be available several times where just one is the worker. If you added the wrong one, you can use the maintain versions to correct that mistake. Just a quick demo where you can find it in the application. I'm currently in with the new immersive homepage in Finance and Operations. When we go to the module System Administrator, there's a section with users, and here you can click on users to get the list of your users. And just as shown, you can, for example, import a user, which I will also do now, because I need, for example, Alfonso Gomez for a next demo. We can select this one. You can select multiple persons and then click on import users to get that user also added in your application. This is the very base task. You can also then go to the details of Alfonso, where you can link this user with a person in the application, but also manage what is the default company. And as a system administrator, you can also go to user options and already set some preferences for him in advance. I'll quickly go back to the PowerPoint slide. For the security roles, just talking about security architecture, first, a simple representation. This is when I talk with a lot of people, think this is the security about. You have your users. The user will be linked to a security role, and the security role is built up upon the duties, privileges, and on privileges you have menu items. Well, it's not fully this simple, as it's not only about menu items, but architecture is a bit larger. It is that will be visible on the next slide. Just before we go to the next slide, if a user is set up in the application and does not have any security role assigned, he will not be able to perform tasks like creating purchase orders or sales orders, or just update particular data on production orders. They should first have a security role assigned, which just tells the application what are the permissions for this user. So that's also called a pessimistic model. But just looking at the complete picture, then the privileges, that is not only about menu items. In this case, the menu items are UI elements, just one part of them, but there are also form controls, which might be able to secured. So in case a particular user has access to a menu item, then particular form controls should be read-only or hidden based on particular security roles that can also be managed with security. So it's not only about the menu items. I also have written several blogs about it last year, which you also can find on my blog space. Now, next to access to the UI elements, you can also set permissions for tables and fields, some overrides, where maybe someone can create sales orders with sales order lines, but may not see the cost price details. Then you can override that with some field permissions, and maybe also, depending on what type of field, you may need to secure the form controls to deny access to those. Also, you can set up what data entities might be available for this user. That's for the purpose of import-export data. Maybe a person needs to import payroll details in a journal every month. In that case, that person also needs to have access to the data entity to be able to interact with the general journal. Also, the service operations are part of just everything you will assign to a privilege. Now, security role can be set up. The next level will be duties, but also each duty can have one or more privileges, and that will just sum up all the permissions for a user when he is assigned to a particular security role. Next to just the application elements, there is an additional data security layer where with data security policies, you can restrict access to sets of records. Maybe a person may not see all customers, but only for a particular customer group. And there's an additional table permissions framework. There I just also have written a separate blog post about that, but that can manage additional security on sensitive data, where you are not just allowed to do anything with the permissions you got by having the permissions on the UI elements, but in addition, also table permissions needs to be added to the privilege or the security role before you can perform certain tasks. Quick overview for the security roles. In the application, you can see, for example, the security configuration form. That will give you an overview on roles, in this case, all the roles that are available in my environment, the duties, privileges, and if you make changes, there will be maybe a list with unpublished objects. I will come back to that one a bit later. But if you focus on a particular security role, for example, the auditor, it has a particular description. You can find out an AOT name if this one is managed via a customization or just as part of the basic application. In case a role was fully configured in the application, you don't see the AOT name. For example, this one. This one is actually developed. I forgot about that. We might come to another option, but in case it was configured in this form, then there's no AOT name, as the application itself is then not aware, at least the metadata is not aware of the security role. Now, each role consists of one or more duties. As an exception, there might be also a privilege attached to it, but usually the best practice would be just use duties, and from a duty, have a link to which privileges are just making sure a person can perform a particular task in his daily work. So the privileges is more on kind of almost entity level, the customers or few bank accounts, where duty is summing up like I need to manage the customer records. That's a bit of the idea between the duties and the privileges. Each of the elements can be reused, just like Lego building blocks. If you need, for example, the view bank document setup in another duty or for another purpose, it's possible to reuse that same privilege. So when we have the users and the roles, we also need to have an assignment, assign the users to the particular security roles. Now, there are options to do that manually. You can do that from a user detail form or another form called assign users to security roles. If you just assign a particular role, initially that user will have access to all legal entities with that particular role. To be able to limit that to particular companies, you can assign organizations, and if you did do an organization assignment, then only the organizations assigned will be visible to the user to perform that particular task. In case you have a lot of legal entities, maybe also with a structure where you want to have a grouping by continent and within the continent, the countries and then the legal entities, you can use organization hierarchies where you can also just manage on a higher level, like this user can access all US-based companies, or this user can access all just one or two legal entities that can be managed quite easily with organization hierarchies. And apart from a manual setup, there are also options to use automatic role assignments. You can use André ID groups. In case you just are using security diagnostics, there is an option like, hey, there are maybe 4 roles having access to maintain customers. If you found out that using the security diagnostics, then you can also just click on a link like assign users to a particular role, which will also bring you then back to the assign users to roles form. Need to get the bottom. So for the manual role assignment, if you go, for example, to the users form, if you go to the details of a user, in this case Benjamin, there's a button assign roles, which will open an additional dialog at the right side of the screen. From here you can choose then which roles to assign to a particular user. What you also can do is copy the settings from another user. In case Benjamin will have similar rights as Oscar, you can select the user ID Oscar, and that will just filter the list where you can just directly manage which or see which roles Oscar has and quickly assign the roles to this user. If you look at the standard application, it has about 170 security roles out of the box, which is already quite a lot. But in case organizations will create their own security roles because the standard does not fulfill, this list might be growing a bit longer. And then it would be just handy to be able to have some more options for filtering or automation. The second option, just if you go to a forum, assign users to roles, then you can select a particular security role and manage with the buttons manually assign or remove to give access to a particular role or just remove it again from that user. And if you are using that assign, you will come into another additional form where you can just then click one or more users and click on assign to the role to grant access to that user. Now, if you have a particular role or multiple roles assigned, for each role, if you want to limit the organizations, you need to click on assign organizations. Note that that is not just assigning for all roles at once. Maybe you can think of a customization or an ISV solution for that purpose, but in the standards you need to do it for the inventory accountant, project accountant, project timesheet user separately to manage the organizations. If you've got one, like for example, the project timesheet user was not assigned to organizations, then still inventory accountant and project accountant is limited, so he can't do that work in other legal entities. But the project timesheet can be still accessed in the wrong legal entities when you change the company. If you want to use the assign organizations, you can click on I want to have a specific organization. If you see the list with legal entities, you can right click, click grant, and it will be then just limiting to that legal entity, or maybe you can just repeat this task and grant access to a few of them. Then using the organization hierarchies, for example, this is a group divided by some entertainment, consulting, and retail companies. Then you can manage that organization will be linked to a purpose security. That organization hierarchy can be linked to the purpose security. In that case, it will also be possible to use an organization hierarchy, and you can select which hierarchy in a drop-down button. And then in case of just all companies in a flat list, you will see them grouped in a tree, and you can then choose to open just only Contoso and grant access, or maybe on Contoso Consulting and grant access with the children, which will then also add the information from the organization hierarchy for the Contoso holdings, starting from this organization, Contoso Consulting, and gives access to just multiple legal entities at once. And the advantage here is also that in case later you'll add another legal entity, for example, to the Contoso Consulting, then also access will be automatically expanded to that legal entity as well. Then there are options for automatic role assignment. You can do that by defining particular rules in the application. In that case, the role assignment will be automatically updated. But for that purpose, there's a batch framework working, which can be set with a recurrence of every minute, which is an overkill. But you can also do it once a day. That usually should be enough. But in case of emergencies, you can also just do a manual execution of the assigned roles to users and just read the rule information. In case you are in a demo environment or just a standard environment, then the batch might be set to withhold if you want to use it in demo environment, and make sure you put it to waiting. Then it will be executed by the batch framework. For setting up the automatic rules, I think I will do this in a live demo. Then skip the parts, but you can create a rule which will open an inquiry form starting with the user information. Then you can just do a filter on this table, but you can also make additional joins with other tables, and then have any data in the application might be used to recognize which users should be part of a particular security role. And you can also then assign organizations, and also one user might be able to meet the conditions of multiple queries. In that case, you will also get multiple organization assignments, as all the rules will be summed up for that user then, in that case. And there are options also to manually override the automatic rules. What you can see is then I want to exclude particular users for never being able to be included with automatic role assignment for this role. Or you can reset or still have a manual override for the case where a particular user might not be recognized by the role. Some examples for the purpose I used it before. Maybe a user is set up as a timesheet user in the application. Then the recognition is that that user or the person linked to that user is a resource in the project with a tag that for the timesheet periods he might do weekly timesheets entry. For that purpose, you can just add multiple table joins, and you can see the list of tables here, which is quite inconvenient to do this multiple times. But if you have just a few times the rule for recognizing the timesheet users, you can use this list to link all the joins. And then on the project periods, you can set up an additional filter, like only the users who are assigned for the employee weekly period group. Also, more advanced, you can customize the application and add new queries in the application. And for example, what I've done also in the past was just find a manager based on the position hierarchy. Because if someone is managing another person as being the manager, that is recognized via reports to in a position hierarchy. In this case, he should have a manager role to be able to just see his own workforce in HR, etc. And that can be done first to really understand the data model. So it's not only just being able to do a quick development, you need to understand what is done, and you should always start that query with user info. Then it will be recognized for the automatic role assignment. but you can then just link any table to get to a list and have then a query in the application which is recognizing when a person will be a manager in the application. I will quickly demo a few parts of this. For example, if we go to the users and we imported Alfonso, one option for a manual role assignment is click on Assign Roles. This will open the list with roles at the right side. I can copy it from another user, but in this case, I want to search a role related to retail. You can filter on the list, contains, start with, etc. And this person will be a retail operations and store manager. Initially, it is just now for all legal entities, and I will leave it that way for this user now. Another option, if we go to the Assign Users to Roles, we have a different view, starting with, for example, the accounting manager, where we can assign users manually, or in this case, they are already set up with a rule in this application. Let's see if we can have another one. Accounts payable clerk, where we can just assign or revoke access from or to users, and maybe Alicia should be added as well. And Charlie, then click on Assign Role. If you go back, in that case, the users are added, and also from here we can assign organizations. I also just mentioned about the automatic role assignment. So at the bottom we can see users which do have access now, and if they are manually assigned, you see the assignment mode manual. Let's go to the manager role. And for the manager role, you can add a rule, and in this case, I did do that customization already to have the users recognized as a manager. Which one was it? Oh yeah, automatic role managers, the top one. And I'm able to edit the query, but in this case, it was already prepared that everyone which is has one or multiple reports below him will be recognized. If we then just click on, in this case, the automatic role assignment manually, or wait for the batch job, that will just check and recognize all the users which do have an are in a position hierarchy above another person. And the same can be done for the timesheets as well. And in fact, every information linked to a user or a person can be used. So if you have an extended HR implementation as well, you can use all the job information to also just link users with the security roles. Go back to the PowerPoint slide, and I think we don't have time to do all today, but I'm happy to share also the slide deck with you if you would like to, that you can see what else might be missing. So also just so in case my time is up, just please let me know, then I will just finish it off in a few additional minutes.
Yeah, I think maybe you can take 5 to 10 more minutes, Andre. That's fine. I think that's okay.
Yeah, okay. So maybe at least important to know that there are two options to make changes to the security roles. There's a customization and a configuration option. First, the customization will be done with Visual Studio. Then you need to have a Visual Studio license and just also developer skills. And the configuration will be done in the Dynamics 365 client itself. Customization usually will be done by a developer, whereas a technical consultant or maybe a volunteer at the client can configure the security roles. The deployment part is also different for both approaches, where if you do a customization, you need to have deployable packages. And for deploying it, you first need to deploy it to an UAT environment where you should test all the changes before applying it to your production environment. For the configuration part, I do recommend to use the same approach. Start in a development or a test environment, make your changes, but also use that environment as a single source of truth for your configuration. Then using the export, import, and publish option, you can move the configuration from one to another environment. The advantage here is that you can do it anytime without any downtime. And for the customization part, then you have all the new application data are on disk. Whereas if you make a security configuration, it will be stored in the database. The customizations are supported with version control. For example, you can use Git for it. And in the configuration part, you can see only with an audit trail what was changed over time. But understanding that form is also a bit harder. For the customization part, there is an option to use some where used tooling. Whereas if you need to know particular menu items, where are they used, you can also use a security analysis or maybe view permissions from a security configuration form while doing the configuration part. The where used tooling with the unified development environments, at least it's not working for me today. Then it times out and can't find the database with that information. In that case, you can still use the cross-reference tooling to find out, for example, where a particular form or menu item is used, and it will also not only give where it's used in coding or on forms, but it will also give the hits, like this one is used in a privilege, and from the privilege you can find the duty and the role, etc. It's a bit more cumbersome than before, but it's still possible to do so. So I will skip all options now to do a demo on the security configuration part. But on the security configuration form, you can just check the whole part and make also changes. For example, you can set permissions. And just one important note to mention here is that the deny option is just prioritizing and grant option. So if you have multiple roles where one has grant and one has deny, then access will be denied, but also the license reporting is not working correctly with the deny option. So my recommendation would be just create the rules as intended and only grant access to what is required. Where I've seen certain clients also just copying standard privileges and then just denying a lot of access. That's not the recommended approach. It would be just make the rules using just privileges with unset or grant only, and only in case where it's not possible or where you want to ensure that this person has access to maintain vendors, for example, but he may never use the payment journal. In that case, you can just for segregation of duties purposes deny access list, and that will not have impact on the licensing anymore. But if you have a role where it was trimmed back from he had access before on the payment journals, but I will deny it, so there will be a grant and a deny in the same role. In that case, the license enforcement will still recognize as an edit, and you would need a finance license instead of probably an activity license. I'll just move along these slides. Feel free to send a message, or maybe I can try to share the slides later in the meeting chat. Also, remember that everything you do in making changes to the security, it has an impact on licensing. For example, if you have an employee role, and on that employee role, by default, it is a team member. If you add features to also be able to, for example, maintain customers, the customers has another license level requirement. In that case, every user with employee role will also require higher licenses. So in your security implementation, ensure you make just also you are aware of impacting the licensing and check what is really required. And also, should every user in the employee role be able to create customers or only a few? And then maybe you can do it better in a separate, distinct role for that user or set of users. Uh, if you want to know about the license impact, then you can go to license usage summary, where you can view data on a user level, what licenses are requirements for this environment. But also just have a more drill down into, okay, this user has a license, but because of what role, what license is suggested by Microsoft. That's a second tab page on the license usage summary. And you can view some details by going to role licenses or the other tab pages, filter on one securable object, in this case, just a complete role accountant. Then you can see for each possible license type, if everything is entitled or if there are some menu items not entitled. In case the not entitled is 0, that role can be, or that license can be used directly for that role without any additional things. Do I still have a bit of time, Sarab, or?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, yeah, five more minutes. Absolutely. That's okay.
Okay, yeah. Well, for the data security part, there are options to do some override on table and field permissions. Initially, a user will inherit table access from the menu item level and entry point set via the privilege, but you can override that maybe particular tables or particular fields will get a deny option, and here the deny option should be used to just limit access. To say like, for example, the update will be denied. In that case, everything can be changed on the form except for that field or that table which is set as deny on the update, then it will be read only. And some fields are just display methods, not data, so that should be secured with form control overrides. The extensible data security, I'll skip this, just explanation. I've written certain blogs about it, so free to read it and also later reach out to any questions on that topic. But I would like to show a bit of just quickly what you can achieve with a customization using the extensible data security. I just created the Alfonso user in my application. So if I go to just another profile to be able to log in with a different user. Somehow I was able to bypass the two-factor authentication, which is great. Oh, it's just not access. Well, he has access because I added the retail features. If you look at, for example, the store management, well, on the store managers, you can see that there are a number of stores, which should be visible. Not for this user. I wonder what happened. We'll quickly change. I will go to the channels. They're in progress here, but not visible, which is weird. I'll quickly change to another user where it was working before today. It's okay. Just this user is able to see out of the 42 stores in progress, only a few of them. And what happened here is if I go to my master part, well, going to, I can do it here as well, the retail operations manager. This was set. Yes. Then on the second user, I now logged in with Nova. She is not able to see all, as I was able to use assign organizations, which is usually used for legal entities, but I extended this with a customization that you can also use organization units, like by region or by business unit. And in this case, Nova has access to the business unit electronics, which gives access to just a few retail stores. But if we now just go to, for example, West and also Grant with children, then the list with retail channels is expanded according to the security. And this is just with extensible data security is reading the context and will then also apply the changes on the user here. So if we reload the information for Nova user, then we can see that the list with the stores is already expanded. That's based on the security. If we remove it, then she will have access to all of the stores and retail channels in the application. I will close my presentation now by just quickly also showing where you can find additional information. If you go to dynamicspedia.com, I do have a menu topic, security topics, where you can just see all the blogs I've written about security, just administration, extensible data security, global address, H2012, some posts, some other things like how to, a lot of information, and also just more recent about the user security and all of the license enforcement. And I would also just recommend you to go to another website from Alex E. Meyer. He also has a lot of information written about security. So he also has information on, where is it, the security topics, where you can find also a lot of information and resources on this topic. By that, when required, I can still talk for hours about this topic, but it should be an introduction. And I'll hand it over now to Saurabh to see if there are any questions already, or if he would like to do his part first and then go to the AMA. I will just stay in the meeting anyway. So, is there anyone having a question?
Yes, Andrew, I have one question. First of all, thank you so much for the useful session. And like I have one requirement, like only view access to all the forms. Like we have system admin, this is for edit access to all the forms. So do we have any forms or any plan? Like I have a requirement, so I am following something. So I just wanted to know what you guys are doing it in case if you have a requirement to view access for all the forms.
A view access. There's one quick option. If you go to the security configuration form, well, it's not really quick. Let me again try to share my screen. And let me know if you can see it. In the security configuration page, what you can do is just create a new role, and let's do that quickly. View all.
Creating a new role and filtering only the view option. Is that the one you're talking about?
Then you can indeed just try to find the duties and privileges related to view only. However, there are some wrongly tagged permissions where the role will end up as a finance or supply chain or combination of roles instead of a team member, because read only should be a team member. So what is also an option is create a new privilege in the application and link that to this role. This is loading a bit.
I think I'm not able to see your screen. Is anyone else having a problem, or only I'm having a problem, not able to see Andrew's screen?
I think I
I
can
can see
see.
Andrew's screen.
You can see it.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's a problem from my
Okay,
side. Yeah, please continue. I
okay.
can understand. Please continue.
Okay, well, if you just create a new privilege in the application, and some people might be able to see it, I'll also name this one View All, then you can, if you select the action menu items or display menu items, for example, you can click on Add References. It will open a list with select the display menu items, which one do you want to include for this privilege, and then you can select all and click on Grant for Read Only. And once you've done that, click on OK. In that case, it will just create one large privilege with all menu items with only the read option. And then still, there might be particular buttons on maybe some parameters form, which are not having any security recognition, just buttons instead of menu item buttons. And those will just probably also be able to execute some data and make changes in the application. So it would be good to review a lot of those forms and see if it's really read-only access for these users. That's it is a bit of quick trick, but be able to fine-tune that read-only role, that will take more time. That's a given. Unfortunately, some view privileges in the application do have wrong settings on the menu items. For example, invoke or delete. In that case, it triggers a higher license, and that can be prevented with an alternative way. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it's got it. Yeah, thanks.
Hi, Andre. Thank you so much for this session. It's very informative. So currently, with the new changes in the licensing, I feel I'm a bit lost between the LTS and Power Platform. So my question is how to calculate a cost for a newly designed rule. How I can know that how much creating a new rule would affect my licensing, how much that would cost my organization.
If you look at the new reporting on LCS in PPAC, that will be the new single source of truth. But unfortunately, until today, there are certain menu items wrongly tagged. But initially, if you create a security role and add menu items like intended for team member, like creating purchase requisitions or maybe approving a vendor invoice, that should be still a team member. A few menu items will be reviewed by Microsoft as that got reported by a lot of users like, hey, this is intended as approving vendor invoices, but it is now triggering a finance license. Microsoft is aware of certain scenarios and are taking actions on that. And all of that is just in metadata outside of the application. It's not looking anymore at the menu items. While configuring particular security roles or developing them and deploying them, then at that time, there's no real visibility anymore like, hey, what's the outcome of this security role? Is it now only finance, or is it finance plus an attach on project operations, or I intended to have an activity and it's still an SCM? What happened? Then during the development, it's really hard to see what's the impact. You can go to a particular license usage summary form and filter on one privilege name and check if that one is intended to be used for activity, for example, or not. But that's quite a lot of work today. Just in a meeting yesterday with the Microsoft team, then I expressed again, like, hey, it is just really helpful if the information that was available on the view permissions form that has been deprecated now by Microsoft, if that information will be brought back, but then with the calculation based on the new calculation algorithm. And the challenge they have with that is that the old way was just showing one license, for example, operations, but was not able to say like, hey, you have a choice now between finance and supply chain. And that information they would like to have on those forums. And that is something they consider for the future, but it will not be there anyway soon and quickly. So it might be a bit of challenge to really know while doing the development what is the change. But if you just deployed or published a particular security role, then wait until the refresh and then you'll see the impact. But that today takes more time. Or what you also can do is just try to export all the data out of the tables which got filled by Microsoft with licensing and create your own Excel sheet or report like, hey, what menu items are requiring in what case, what license. And in that case, you also have a search option outside of F&O, like, hey, while doing some developments. But I do agree, it's today a bit painful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, especially when it takes 24 hours to update and see the results.
Yes, that's on PPAC. That's correct. Some information about the roles are already refreshed on within F&O a bit quicker, and that can be between 2 and 8 hours. So Microsoft is improving the refresh times, but in F&O it's already quicker. But the report on PPAC, that one is collecting data from multiple environments, not only one. And for that reason, they still have that one on once a day instead of just more frequent. But each environment individually in F&O, that's already quicker. That's about 8 hours maximum.
Thank you, André.
You're welcome.
André,
No,
I have a
good.
question in the meantime.
Yes, please. Yep.
Yeah. So, what's happening in the space of project operations? Like, I recently read somewhere that Microsoft has renamed the deployment types. They are calling it as project operations core, project operations integrated with ERP, and project operations for manufacturing. So, is it like if a user has to access finance and operations, project management, and accounting module, they will need to additionally buy the attached licenses of project operations?
No, in fact, there are several different deployment types. That was there already for several years, but now just recently Microsoft indeed renamed them to just make a bit more clear what is used and is it only the project operations on the CE side or what to do in the ERP. But with a project operations license, you can access all of the project operations deployment types. So meaning that if you are using the core with just the resources only, then you can just with the project operations access just the CE part, but with that same license, you can use the project operations features as intended in F&O as well. But in case, for example, you need to do manufacturing as part of a project process, which is just the engineer to order, then that also will make it a requirement to also have supply chain management. And in that case, a user should have the supply chain management as SCM can't be attached on top of project operations. So then he will have the supply chain management and also a project operations as attached. But with the base license, a person can already use all project operations features in both of the technology products.
Sorry, André.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you.
I have another question, André. So when I use the security governance maintain rule, creating duties using the task recorder, when I merge task recording, I found that it changes the menu items access. So is merging still is what is the best practice now using the maintain rules for creating the duties, especially when I try to using the merging, it didn't work as expected.
To be honest, I did not use this option myself a lot. I still like to reuse existing duties and privileges as much as possible. And then for me, the security configuration form is still quicker for me. But if you look at end users creating rules, then they don't know anything about the duties and privileges. They will probably indeed just prefer the task recorder. About merging, I don't have that experience myself yet. Maybe Sarab has done certain tests on that. But actually, while just doing the task recorder itself, in case you just open a form and go to the next form, then it will recognize them as just read-only. But if you open, for example, the all customers form, create a new user, delete it, and then go to the next form, then it will recognize in the task recorder that the access permissions should be just also create, update, and delete. But for the merging, I don't have any thing tested myself yet. I would love to do it, but suddenly I got a bit occupied with something called license enforcement, so it took a lot of time now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before I start next thing, anyone has any other question for Andre, like related to security or license enforcement? Anything you would like to ask Andre right now? No?
Actually, I have many questions, but I don't I want to leave the space for others.
Yeah, I think if
Yeah.
you have a lot of questions, like Andre has written a lot of very good blogs in the recent time for license enforcement and other things. So you might want to possibly explore a bit his blog side, and maybe you will get all the answer. If not, then you can always connect with him or over the LinkedIn and then try to ask your queries, right?
Perfect. Andre just mentioned that you have tested the merging feature in the maintain
And
rule.
maybe he did. I know that Sarab did also create a post about reusing existing duties
Yeah.
objects. So I thought maybe you also had to have some experiences with the merging parts. That's something I have not done myself yet.
Yeah, merging one I haven't tested again. I mean, I just tried using the existing, with the governance feature which we have got, that how you reutilize your existing duties, roles, and all the security objects which you have. But that's a very good thing to test it out. Most maybe if you can reach out to me or Andre in future, maybe we'll try to do, and then maybe uh, share our experience with you. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. I did few tests, but yeah, we'll do that together.
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you so much, Andre. I mean, it was really insightful, even for me, right, to know about these basics, and also thinking about the customization, comparing what comes with the configuration, what with the customization, how the XTS looks like, because a lot of the functional side, right, we end up having the requirement from our customers, and sometimes we don't know how do we manage I mean, between these different options. So this gives a very good visibility around the basics of security, user management, different types of options which are available, assigning automatic role, hierarchy based, and so on, right? So really, really appreciate your time. And I mean, I mean, I would love you to stay in this. Maybe in the end, if some more questions are there. But now we can move to our next segment.